Hey guys, what's up? Nick here from iNVision Prototypes. Today we're going to be working on the back end of the M40C build, specifically the rear window to trunk area. Now I started the template for that, and you can see that's a pretty large piece we're going to be wheeling up. And if you're looking at it, you're probably thinking, that's a reverse curve. That's right guys, it rolls down from the roof into the trunk lid, which is convex, and then we're also rolling over the edges of the car. So there's a lot of material, a lot of things going on, and if we screw that up, well, we have a lot of waste. So we have to really keep track of what's going on with the panel. It's going to be fun. Let's get started. Alright, so here's the deal for this rear panel. Past a little while I've been wheeling it out, and as you can see, got up on the buck, but it's not fitting very well. We have a buckle in the middle, we have the reverse curve happening, but we also have a buckle. And only because these two ends, the radiuses are in too tight to the middle. So we need to move that out, allowing these sides to come down, pulling the middle up, and then lift that back up again. You can see as soon as I pulled it off the buck and relieved the tension on each side there, the center popped right back out. And you see how nice that curve is starting to roll up. But we have a little ways to go yet. So we need to get this area here rolling up into the sail panel, which means we have to do a lot of stretching in here. Now I could apply a lot of pressure on this and move the metal faster, but then I'll end up with ridges because the metal really doesn't know where to go. You're squeezing it so hard, so you end up with ripples and ridges, and we don't want that. Now we don't want to stretch this too much in here because that's a flat area when it comes into the side of the sail panel. But right where I'm wheeling, that's where it needs to come up. Okay. With a panel this size, you really need to keep track of what you do from end to end as well. Okay, let's throw this up on the car and see what it looks like. Alright, so it's not sitting too bad, but we have a few little areas that are kind of warping up here. And it's only because this material here is forcing this upward and causing that to buckle. So as soon as we take and stretch this area out and allow that to come down, this will stand back up. Well, that sits so much better. See how it's sitting on the buck there? Now it's a little bit long there around the window. That'll be trimmed away. I left quite a bit of excess material. You can see it's coming around quite nicely. Now there's a bit of a gap up underneath there. That'll get squeezed down in a minute. I'll get more clamps on that. But this side is not looking too bad. And that reverse curve is coming in quite well from up there. Now we have some smoothing and stuff to do, but right now I'm focusing on just the general shape of the panel, just to get this sit on the buck. Then we'll go through and clean it up after. What do you guys think? So let's do a little more shaping. I'll clamp it down a bit better, and then we'll take and start trimming away the excess material and getting it to fit into basically the final location. So this structural web here is actually sticking up a bit too high past the shoulder line. So I'm going to get the plasma out and just blow this excess material away, allowing that top panel to set down where it needs to be. Because right now I can stick my finger up underneath between the buck and the sheet metal, and that's not right. And this is supposed to be like that. That allows the quarter panel to come through and while still maintaining the proper curvature there. Alright guys, well I feel like I'm on Cirque du Soleil balancing on this buck here, but just looking at this panel, we have about ½ an inch here between the sheet metal and the buck that's kind of up in the air, but as soon as I bring that down, it sits really well, even on its own. We're sitting on the outside of the buck, we should be on the inside, so that's creating a bit of tension there. And then we're extending up maybe 1.5 inches past the rod of the window. We're gonna have to take and roll down 5/8 and roll up 5/8 for the window seat, and then trim off the rest. But this is getting in really close here. And then the cut line for the trunk, it's about 3 inches up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and scribe all these lines because this panel is really where it needs to be. And then we're gonna trim away some of the excess material and clamp this back into place. Let's see if I can jump up in here without too much trouble. We'll get this panel unclamped, get it on the bench. I'll show you what we need to cut away, where we need to cut away. And then at that point, we'll just put it back up here once we cut the excess material off and move on to the bottom. So this green line here indicates our trunk's cut line, which is where we're gonna start bending downward. We'll probably bend down ½ an inch. I'm not gonna form the channel as part of the same piece. That's gonna be just a little bit too much of a challenge. So like I said, roll down ½ an inch. That'll tie into the channel for the seal for the trunk. And then up and through here, we're going to add 5/8 plus another 5/8, 1.25 in total. And that's going to be the window line. Okay, a little quick trick here that you guys can do if you ever want to just have a consistent line without getting rulers out, because it's kind of hard to scribe a line on a curved panel. Just use some masking tape, 3/4 inch or whatever you want to use. Now I mentioned ½ an inch, but I'm going to leave a little bit extra because I may readjust the panel later to fit a little bit better, and I just want to make sure that we have enough material. I think somebody once said it's a lot easier to cut away material than it is to add material. So what I'm going to do is add 3/4 there. Oops. Gotta hold my tongue right. Scribe that there. And then in this case here, we'll make some 1.25 witness marks, which is essentially right there on this edge here. And we'll use this tape over to re-indicate, hopefully it's sticky enough. As we've been wheeling this panel, the protective oil that the metal supplier or the metal manufacturer puts on the panel actually gets squeezed out. So it gets transferred to the tape, and the tape doesn't stick too well. There we go. So we can trim that away, get the panel up on the car again, and move on to the next panel. Pieces such as this are obviously garbage, but a panel or a piece like this, you can actually form it into a profile for a panel, test fit it a couple times, and it's a usable piece. So we'll save this for later. Let's go fit this panel back up on the car. A little bit of rippling on top, that's not an issue. That'll smooth out afterwards. Right now we're sitting exactly where we need to be on the buck. A lot of that material actually has to be stretched because you're going to be going down into a trough for the window seal. So aside from that, I can let the panel go, and for the most part, it's sitting on its own. There we go. Okay. Just a little bit of tension, and it's sitting where it needs to be. So came out really well. Could put a few screws into this, because I'm sure eventually it'll slide down, or we can just put a clamp on it. Stay. From down here, that panel looks really nice mocked up there. So I'm really happy as to how that came out. Okay. We're sitting on top of the structure here, that's what's keeping us up. So when I trim off this side here, that'll all settle down. We're going to move down here and get this lower fascia panel started.